Yeah, what's happening? We about to bring that action. Gotta hold it down for my Seattle Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. We going beneath the waves. Get it hype, step onto the ice. Ready for some action. Release the Kraken. Hey, we going beneath the waves. Going beneath the waves.
What is up, everyone? Welcome in to the Beneath the Waves podcast, your weekly dose of all things Seattle Kraken and beyond. My name is Matt, and joining me, as always, this week is...
It's Heather.
It's Derek.
And it's Alex.
And this is episode 3 of the BTW podcast, and we'd like to just welcome in all our new friends, as well as extend a massive thank you to everyone who has joined us through the first 2 episodes so far, have dropped a follow, have shared it to their friends and family, or whoever might be open ears on their Facebook feeds or Twitter feeds. And those who left us a review as well. That was very nice and kind of you. And I don't know about you guys, but after that little intro there, I am feeling pretty amped up because we're only 3 weeks in, but BTW has gone under a little bit of a facelift, a bit of a rebranding, thanks to the efforts spearheaded by one Heather. Heather, do you want to tell us about our new friends that we have that helped spruce us up a little bit here?
I would love to. First of all, like, how freaking cool is our new music? Hopefully you loved that as you were going through your podcast and all of a sudden that banger of a song came on. First of all, a huge shout out to Kibo for creating that perfect hype music for us. Maybe it was mostly me pushing this idea through, but I had this vision of like people listening to their podcast, and then all of a sudden they know when ours is about to start. So you're going to have it in your head for the rest of the week, I promise. And you're going to love that. We have had it in our heads for a week now, and it is amazing. Also, just a shout out to him for really capturing what we wanted, the hype, sort of the in-arena feel, the vibes. I did a lot of research and listened to a ton of music, some that should never be out there. And when I found him, I knew his vibes were our style. So thank you, Kibo, for creating that for us. We're beyond excited about it. It's better than I could have ever imagined. And on top of the music, we also have our new logo, which was really important to us too, because we wanted a human to actually go through and create it and tweak it. And I think when we were coming up with the name Beneath the Waves, we agonized for weeks over it and finally settled upon Beneath the Waves. It ended up being the perfect thing, but we've been using sort of just a temporary logo, and just a big shout out to Sarah Zohair, who is immediately confident she could create something really unique and special for us. And I really think she did an amazing job. In fact, her first iteration to us, we only had really minor tweaks. So it was really easy to work with her, and this logo is going to look amazing on future gear. So stay tuned. But again, just huge shout out to Kibo and Sarah for working with us and sort of helping us not rebrand, but just brand in general.
Yeah, up to this point, we were kind of just operating on the best that Microsoft Designer AI could provide me with that actually spelled words correctly and had a squid in it. So this is a definite step up. Like you said, that song has been stuck in our collective heads all week. I wake up, I'm brushing my teeth, I toss on that song. I'm making my lunch in the morning, I toss on that song. I'm driving to work, and it's just constantly running in my head. And I'm sure that statement stands for you two guys as well.
Yeah, I am absolutely out of my mind hyped. Working on the Beneath the Waves graphics. I know you guys got to see what Matt is capable of with the game day graphics the last 2 games. 10 out of 10 job, Matt. Absolutely amazing stuff. I don't know where you learned how to do that. But working with the graphics, it is amazing to see our new logo with the same colors that we had before, and having all those assets to be able to use it. The new logo looks absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to plaster it on every single thing possible. I literally just want to post 100 pictures of our logo a day on our social media at this point. So really excited to finally be unveiling that.
AI can only do so much. AI ain't that smart either. They always say that it's going to take over the world, but it can't spell words right. So on that, our new logo is just fantastic. And you just, like Derek and Heather and Matt, you've all said that, you could slap that on anything and it's going to look crisp. And then, just our new music for the intro. It's just fantastic. Basically, what Matt said, you can brush your teeth listening to it, you can go to bed listening to it, you can do anything while listening to it, and it's just gonna slap.
So again, huge shout out to them. If you want more information on each of them and the services they provide, I'll put the links in the show notes on whatever app you happen to be listening to, and we will have it on our feeds as well. You can go check them out, and we will 100% be checking in with them again if we have things that we need done down the line. Derek, we have a new segment this week. Do you have a theme song
Yes,
planned? Probably not.
I do not. But I do
Perfect.
have a name, and it's Mailbag Time, yo. That's the name of the segment as of right now. That's a precursory name. We're open to changing that in the future, but for right now, it's Mailbag Time, yo. Basically, what the idea here is that on our Twitter, we're gonna make a post every single week, a couple days, maybe a day after we release the pod. I don't really know yet. But we're going to be asking what you guys have questions about as it pertains to the Seattle Kraken this season. We did get 2 submissions this week that I want to go over. And our first question is from Kraken Fan 32, and it's, do injured players travel with the team? Now, straight up, the answer to that is yes, but whether they do or not is going to be up to really how bad the injury is. So if it's a really bad one where there's broken bones or there's a concussion and they need tests and they need to like recover and rehabilitate, it's probably not the best idea to have them on the road. But if they are only going to be out a certain, like a couple games, then you might want to have them on the road with you to still practice in a no contact jersey, at away practices, to go to club meetings with the team, and basically just stay connected, stay in the groove of the season, because the season moves very fast. I remember when I was on the ice crew and I would miss a game and I'd come back and everything was different. So I'm sure for the players, you miss a couple meetings or a game like of being there, everything's going to seem like you've missed 10 years. That's kind of what you're balancing there. The second question is from Brendan Allen. And Matt, I'm going to send that over to you.
So Brennan, who we might more commonly know in the hockey world as Did Penguin on the Twitters, he asked us, 3 weeks into the season, what are your guys' thoughts so far? Anything you like, anything you hate? And I think this is a great setup for him to get us to roll into our group vibe check for the week. In isolation for this week was pretty rough, as we'll get into in our recaps, but I'm still choosing to remain hopefully optimistic on it. We had 3 games against pretty tough teams, and in isolated elements that we'll talk about down the line, I think that we performed really well. For me, one thing that I'm really liking so far, I love the production that we're getting out of Jordan Eberle. S on his chest stands for Superman, not just Seattle, because he is putting in points and points and points. Same with Jared McCann. Jared McCann is getting me very hyped up. I think he's on a five or 6 game point streak after this most recent game yesterday. So even though we're not getting the team results, we are still getting some individual results and highlights that I think are worth getting a little excited about.
I'm still optimistic as well. I think, we've got such a small sample size of games. Still, we're early in the season. I'm not ready to panic or make huge changes yet. I still think the team is working on chemistry. And, when somebody goes out like Vince Dunn, that makes it really difficult to keep that, consistency and the cohesiveness, because he is a big part of the team. And we're kind of seeing that with the results of these games this week. But I do think we're seeing some progress, especially if we're comparing it to last season. And I don't think I'm in a place where I'm going to panic and say they're awful. I think there's some good things to be said about their performances. Each night there's a little glimpse of something, and I'm going to save that for game recaps, but I just think we're seeing some good progress forward. Taking the Jets to OT when they've been undefeated is something that we should really actually be kind of excited about. So vibes are tough after these last games, but overall, I'm still optimistic.
For myself, I'm a hopeful optimist in this type of situation, because as much as we've had a lot of positives, we definitely have a lot of kinks that we need to work out. This week, it's clear as day to me that we're still very much a Jekyll and Hyde-esque team. There's some games that you're going to come in and they're going to be ready to play. And then there's other games and they just ain't showing up. So it's like a 50-50 hit or miss. There's times that they're playing like they played it when they made the playoffs, and they were just lights out fantastic. And then, other games you're going to be watching them and you're like, inaugural season Kraken, or last year Kraken, and it's just kind of something like that. So it's too early in the season to really determine exactly what we're going to see moving forward. So I'm going to remain that optimist, but they just need to string some positive, like, full 60-minute games in a row, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think, however, that this season has, in some ways, appeared to be a continuation of last season, and in other ways, appeared to be a revival of back to the 2023 or the 2022-2023 season when we made the playoffs. We still have that high shooting percentage, but what's really concerning is that we have, I think it's 21st in the league. We're rated for expected goals percentage. And I think we have like 46 or 47% of the expected goals for. So I'd really like to see that change. We'll obviously discuss that in game recaps. But at the end of the day, a week ago when we made this pod, we had won 3 straight games. Okay. And I wouldn't say that we were a lock to win the Stanley Cup or a lock to make the playoffs. And this week, as Heather mentioned, we took the Jets to OT. We lost. So we lost 3 straight games this week. And I don't think that that means we're a lock to not make the playoffs or be doomed. Like Alex said, it's very early, and I'm excited to see what goes on going forward. Yeah.
It was not the best week for the Seattle Kraken, as we had 3 games at home to finish off our homestand, and we lost all 3 of those games. Heather, do you want to take us through game number 7 against the Colorado Avalanche?
Sure. So game number 7, Avs were in town. This was a 3-2 loss, but I want to talk about the first period kind of in isolation because they dominated the first period. I was so hype watching. I was sitting there and Yanni almost had a goal 9 seconds in, just off the opening faceoff. Basically, it rang off the post. Ty Cartier had one that hit the post a little bit later. Like, really was a great period for the Kraken. It's just that they couldn't convert on anything, which also is an issue, and it's an ongoing issue. But it was 12-5 shots on goal in favor of the Kraken by the end of the first. Like, it was a really fun and exciting period. But at the end of the first, Kiviranta scored. There was like a minute and a half left. And I just feel like that took the wind out of their sails. And, it was kind of like we just couldn't get back to it after that. In fact, the second period, there was some penalties. And, the McKinnon power play goal was, as much as I hate to say it, it was really nice, but like it just took everything from the team. Jared McCann's 100th goal as a Kraken, though, that was exciting. That tied the game. That was amazing. Like, that was super exciting. But after that, we gave the Avs a 2-goal lead. And it just, I don't know. We just could not get back to it. It's like they fell apart in the second. The first period had some really great passes. Everything seemed connected. And then I don't know. The second period was completely different. And I just feel like we were seeing such good progress of when they were coming out in the second and being so dominant. And then this one, they just fell completely flat, just like they just couldn't come back from it. In the last 2 minutes of the game, we finally went on the power play, and Coach Campbell drew up this great play, and Riker was able to score with just 3 seconds left in the game. And so that brought us within 1, but it was kind of too little too late. And if I'm being honest, when I watch games, it's hard sometimes. But after when we were like in the second, I was like, we're not coming back and we're not winning this. And I hate to feel that way because I was so excited in the first, but there were just too many missed passes in the second and third. It's like there were players behind the net that really wanted to get the puck net front, and there was nobody there. And we've seen them do better with that. In fact, I'll talk about that when we get to last night's game, but it's just, there was a disjointed effort, and they really just fell apart.
I don't have much to say about this game. I wasn't able to catch all of it, but just looking at the notes here, something that jumps out to me, obviously McCann getting his 100th goal is nice, but on the bad side, penalties further killed our momentum. That's been a kind of a theme lately, especially with the game yesterday. We'll go into that, but unfortunate for that game. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I have for that one.
I think the biggest thing for me when I look at a game like this is that first period, we had the chance to really take a hold of this game and run away with it. And we just couldn't capitalize. Like, we couldn't finish any scoring opportunities that we had. And then our penalty trouble is something that has been killing us. And it's been something that we've been having issues with even into the last season, taking stupid penalties. And we saw it again during this game. And it's just been something that it just seems like they just can't fix it. When they get trapped into a corner, they just elect to take dumb penalties because they're in panic mode. And I think we're seeing that more and more often. And yeah, but on a positive, Coach Campbell, power play mastermind. We're at the end of the game, you're just doing anything to score. I'm not gonna lie, I celebrated quite hard when Evans scored. I was like, 4 seconds left. I don't care. That was a beautiful goal. The game was out of reach, but at the same time, it was like, okay, at least got something to cheer for. And I think the power play is just going to get stronger and stronger.
You say the game's out of reach, but thinking back, I'm trying to remember. I think it was Brandon Tanev got the puck off of the faceoff following that goal and still just fired it as hard as he could with 3.6 seconds left or whatever it was. So he's still, you never know. It might take a weird bounce and go in, and that would just, the roof would blow off CPA, I think, if that were to happen. But we just need to, I think, stay consistent through 60. Like, we had a strong 20 to start, and then we let off. And then sometimes, like, our middle 20 is awesome and we just can't get us. So hopefully we can find our footing along the way here. Jared McCann hitting the 100th goal as a Kraken. That was obviously the big silver lining out of this game. And it was in pretty stylish fashion, I think, too, the way he just backed it in and put it up backhanded. Just really, it's a tough team. Colorado, that's a big one. Glad to see that the crowd at CPA is still very much committed to the boo Cale Makar meme that's going on, just to ruffle people's feathers and get them a little worked up. But there'll be other chances, and there'll be less tough teams that we can try to get some points on. It just wasn't our night that night. But we did in game 8 end up taking home an overtime point when we lost 4-3 in overtime to the Jets. In this game, Matty Beniers opened scoring in the first period with an awesome, beautiful, unassisted goal over the goalie's blocker. And I think for all of us, something we noticed is he seemed like a completely different player after this happened. He's kind of been in a lot of a rut. Everyone's talking about, you're paying him $7 million a year. You're putting the A on his chest. He's really got to step up and perform. And we didn't have a lot of production up to this point, but he finally got on the scoreboard, on the score sheet with that goal. Winnipeg soon came back with a response goal early in the second period, and then Oliver Bjorkstrand and Adam Larsson worked together to have this beautiful tic-tac-toe type of play. Everyone was excited. It looked like it was really good. And then Yanni just got a little too close to the goaltender, and it got called off for goaltender interference, which you always hate to see. All hope seemed to be lost up to the midway through the third period. At that point, Jordan Eberle, Captain Eberle, came in and scored a beautiful backhanded goal to bring the Kraken within one. And then 5 minutes later, Matty Beniers once again tipped a rocket of a shot from Brandon Montour. We've talked about that shot many times over the past few weeks, how he just sends rockets, sends missiles, sends laser beams from the blue line. And Matty just got the tip on it and got it in, which sent us into bonus hockey time. This is another short one. Unfortunately, not short in our favor, and it resulted in the first overtime loss for the Kraken. Winnipeg scored on a delayed penalty call after Stevie trips a Jets player, leading to a shot just trickling under the arm of Joey Decord. And again, not the result we want. At least we get 1 point. That's one of the 6 overtime losses I predicted at the start of the season in our time capsule. How are we feeling through loss in game 8?
This game, to me, like, I know I pointed out the whole Jekyll and Hyde situation. This is a Jekyll type game. The Jets are still undefeated at this time of recording. I believe they're 8-0 right now, which is insanity when you actually think about it. Going into a game like this, you're expecting not really to be able to compete. The Jets are the Jets. And the fact that we were able to not only come into this game and take the lead to start off the game, but then come back from a 3-1 deficit and tie it up. Like, I remember being on the stream and saying, they have to score before they hit the 10-minute mark or it's over. And, they were able to do that. And then they were able to tie it up, and it was a brand new ball game. This was a game where they played as a team. Everyone did exactly what they needed to do. We had goaltending, we had defense, we had offense, we had everything. They played the full 60 minutes. They didn't stop at one moment, packed up their stuff and said, well, we tried. We played a full 30 minutes. Let's call it a day. They played the full 60. And, to come out of this game, with a single point in overtime, sure. Was it a brutal goal to give up to end the game? Absolutely. But last season, this game would have been out of reach as soon as it was 3-1. So this game is a win in my opinion. That's the point that you're going to be looking at the end of the season, be like, 77 points, not 76 points. Look, we showed Alex on this, but no, an honest, I do believe that, like, this is a type of a game where you're going to look back at the end of the season, and where those single points matter. This is going to be one of those games where you're going to be like, we might have lost this game a year ago. We were able to get the point on this.
I think for me, a couple of things. Maddie, obviously, that's huge that he was finally able to get his goal for the season. And I think he's been playing really well defensively, but it's so nice to finally see it pay off with some goals for him there. I think like Matt said, he just looked completely different. He was more relaxed and just looked super excited to finally do that this season. I also think this team just did not give up this time, and I think to me that's super important, and I'll probably continue harping on it all season because that's so much part of their identity. I feel like even that first season when things were super bleak, they just never ever gave up. Like they'd be down by 3 and they still would just be fighting back. There's 2 minutes left and it didn't matter. They're like, we're going to keep going to the very end. And I think in some of the seasons last year in particular, we lost some of that. And I love that part of their identity. So I always want that. I want them to never, ever give up and show us fight to the very end. And I do think that even though we lost that one, taking the Jets to OT, never giving up, there's a lot of really good things there. So I'm not upset with that one at all. I actually think it was a real check in the positive column.
Yeah, I agree with Matt and Heather that Beniers looks completely different after getting these goals. You can almost kind of see it in his eye. It just looks like he's different now. He had been heating up recently. I remember we were all talking about that. He had been heating up in the games prior, but it is nice to see him finally start to produce, especially after that contract. Something that was really fun for me is that I actually had to listen to you guys. I was forced to listen to you guys on the way home from a movie. You guys streamed that one. And when I got in the car, it was 3-1 in the third period. And you guys were talking about what we could do to sort of fix the team, like what sort of moves we can make. And then, a goal goes in, and then things get a little bit happier. And then another goal goes in, and then everyone's like, okay, we're good. Like, we got this. It was fun to witness that shift in mentality live. Because I feel like that's exactly how I am every single game. We could be down 1-0 and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is over. And then up 2-1. Oh, we're winning the cup. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the game. Wasn't able to watch it until the very end. I got home and I threw it on and they instantly scored an OT. I don't know how Joey played the whole game. I feel like he played decently, but I feel like he definitely could have had that one. I know it was a 4-on-3 though, so willing to sort of part with that one, but looked like it squeaked through and he should have had it. But those are my thoughts. And that takes me to game 9 versus the Hurricanes, which was last night as the time of our recording. So context for this game, we obviously had a 2-game losing streak going into it, and Carolina is first or second in most stats relating to scoring chances. They showed it before the game. High danger scoring chances, second chances, all that stuff. So we knew from the beginning it was going to be a very, very, very tough matchup. In my personal opinion, the first goal of the game in the first period from the Canes, and it was on a penalty kill for the Kraken, but Larson seemed to just be staring right at the puck carrier with, I forgot who scored it, literally just like standing 5 to 10 feet behind him. And it seems sort of like a common theme from watching games, and it's something I really don't understand, having played recreational hockey, because I feel like it's one of the first things you learn to like not just have everyone stare at the puck. But I feel like so many of these goal replays, we look and all of the players are staring directly at the puck when they have guys behind them. It doesn't really make sense to me. That was the first period. The shots were 15-5 after the first period. In the second period, Carolina with a barrage of shot attempts. Kraken find a couple of real chances, but they're few and far between. At the end of 2, the shots are 30-12, and the scoring chances are 42-11. It's at this point in the game where I was thinking that Joey Decord was the only saving grace of this game. The defense looked bad, the offense looked bad, but Joey Decord clearly stood out as having an amazing game. The second goal of the game was also not on him. It was also a backdoor that was wide open. The second goal, the puck trickled behind Frederik Andersen in the crease and almost rolled in. And instantly it went the other way and they instantly scored. And so that was very unfortunate. In the third period, Jared McCann got the only goal of the game for the Kraken on an unreal breakaway goal. It was forehand, backhand, forehand. And I think this at this point, I was thinking this is exactly what an elite goaltender can do for you. You outlast the opponent's constant attack. I know we had allowed 3 goals at this point, but honestly, if Joey wasn't up to the task, it could have easily been like 6 goals. It felt like the game would have been nowhere near close. And Beniers back on that McCann line, I think, contributed to their production yesterday. I think that looked really good. And one more thing I want to say about this game is that Joey Decord, I think, really stepped up and showed a clear distinction last night between him and Grubauer. I think that's a game where if the Kraken had scored, we would have said that Joey Decord stole that game for the Kraken. And I think that if he was combined with a playoff level team, I think that team would go very deep. So I'm very hopeful in building around Decord for these next couple of years.
Watching that at home, it felt like we were very flat-footed for a lot of it. I know, Derek, you were handling the tweeting duties for the game, and one of your tweets said it looks like Carolina is playing on 1.8 times speed, because every time they had the puck, they just happened to, or they seemed like they had just a little more zip than the Kraken did. McCann just continues to be our all-star, just kind of constantly performing. He had, before he ended up scoring on that breakaway, he had a breakaway, I think, in the period prior to that. It was almost identical. He just kind of, I think it got poked away, or he just barely lost it at the last second before he could shoot it. So he's up there with, yes, Joey kept us in the game, but I mean, Jared McCann, he's just next level. I can't give enough hype to that guy and enjoy watching him every single game.
For myself, I don't really have much to say. This game was very lackluster in my opinion, and it got so bad that I actually fell asleep before the puck drop for the third period. So that kind of just shows you how invested I was in this game, and I was kind of on the same wavelength of how the Kraken decided to play. Half asleep at the wheel. Joe Decord, that's all I got to say about this. Really, he kept us in this game. I really do believe that if he wasn't in net, this game could have been out of reach quite early. Decord makes exceptional saves in some ways that you're just like, how? I think that's something that you got to look at and really develop and build around. So I hope the Kraken really look at that and say we have a goaltender for the future. Let's build around that to really extend our chances for playoff contention as they move forward. But this is the Hyde part of my Jekyll and Hyde. Not a full 60 minutes. Can't generate any shot attempts, flat-footed, just downright boring hockey. Like, it was just like, they're throwing paint at the wall and hoping that, hoping it not only does it stick, but you're watching it literally dry, and it's terrible to watch. We were put through that for 60 minutes. For myself, it was 40 minutes, but like, I couldn't even I couldn't just imagine if this is if this was your first NHL game, if you went to go see it, it would be heartbreaking. And with that segue, Heather, you were at the game.
Yeah, whether that's fortunate or unfortunate, I was at the game last night. I mean, the thing about it is, it's always fun and a privilege to go to a hockey game. Okay, so I don't have complaints there. Like, I don't ever regret going. But what a sad, sort of boring performance to witness in person. And I kind of want to say thank goodness it was Halloween night in the Deep, because Bowie was dressed as Deadpool and there was a lot of fun costumes and games, and I guess there's that. But to get back to the game, though, really, the first goal, I just keep thinking, it just wasn't on Joey. In fact, we always meet up at first intermission. When we did that, we were all talking about how it's kind of like everyone was on this side and the Hurricanes are on this side. And the goal just went in, and the only one who could have stopped it was Larson, who didn't do anything. So I just can't blame Joey for that one. In fact, most of them I couldn't. I just feel like he was doing all he could and no one was there to back him up. And we're seeing that kind of often. So that is something they need to work on. PKs were really sloppy. The passes were really sloppy too, just overall. Like, I kept watching them just pass to no one or pass to someone who wasn't even looking in the right direction for the puck. I don't know how to describe it, except it was just super disjointed, and maybe I'm being more critical because I was sitting there watching it happen right there, but it just looked really sloppy. I will say something positive, though. There was this really great sequence in the third period where it was the Ebbs line, and they were putting a lot of pressure on the Hurricanes, and they went down. They spent significant time in the Hurricane zone, and I was watching them alternate net front. And so I'm sitting there yelling, get it to Maddie. He's net front. Get it to Ebbs. He's net front. Get it to Schwartz. He's net front. And like the guys behind me are like, he's net front. He's net front, as they're like listening to me continue to say it, because I just was like, look at them. They're there. Like, pass it to them, you know? So there was this really great little sequence. Nothing came of it, but it was nice to see like they do have the ability to like start doing those things. So it's not unheard of that they're making good plays and good choices. It's just it's not consistent enough. So I think Carolina is just a really good team. Also, we have to keep that in mind. Like, it's just a great team. They were great at reading our plays. They were great at disrupting our plays. And I'm upset about that game, but also, you know, I don't think like I said, I'm not ready to hit the panic button.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also just really wanted to quickly note that, Carolina is a great team. And I'm formally predicting right now that they will be playing in the Stanley Cup final. I'm not going to predict that they're going to win, obviously, but I do predict that they will be in the Stanley Cup final. I also wanted to note that this was game 2 of a back-to-back start for Joey. It was his first of the year, and he just came out and balled out in that. And one final note is that the amount of chances for scoring by the end of the game were 65-18 Carolina. So completely outmatched.
In this week's Desert Dialogues, on the 25th of October, the Firebirds played the Ontario Reign. They were actually successful with a 5-2 victory. And this game wasn't just a victory, it was just a full-blown blowout. Goal scorers for the game was Captain Max McCormick, 35 seconds of the game to start this out. Then we got a goal from Jacob Melanson, Ryan Winterton, Yanni Neiman, and Logan Morrison. 5 excellent goals. John Hayden had 2 assists on the night. And did we get a kill flurry fight? We did indeed. You know, this game had everything. It had fights, it had goals, it had chaos. And that's what you get in the AHL, especially with the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Alice Stetska, goaltender for the Firebirds that night, had 2 goals against and a save percentage of .933. So it was an exceptional game. We actually outshot Ontario 40-30 overall, but in the first period alone, it was a 19-9. Exceptional first period. It's a real barn burner to start the game. There's going to be one player that we really want to focus on. Heather, I think you want to just briefly discuss about Ryan Winterton.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all know I'm really excited about Ryan Winterton, but it's been fun watching him this season. We don't have a ton of games that the Firebirds have played, but it is fun watching him so far because he's just showing that he's on that cusp of like NHL. He's really very close. He plays a little bit of a step ahead, but he had this really, really amazing shorthanded goal. It was a breakaway goal, and it was his first of the season. But what I really liked is he just saw the opportunity and took it. And to me, he looks better absolutely every time I see him. He's so hungry to play, and he's very exciting. So I'm hoping we see him at least up once this season for the Kraken, because I think it'd be really fun to see it. We got to see him last season a little bit, but I think seeing him a little more would be great. But overall, this game was so fun. It's the second game in a row where they've scored 3 goals in the first period. I love 5 different goal scorers. That's so encouraging, not only for the team, but for the future of the Kraken as well. So just super exciting. And those Dia de los Muertos jerseys were fire. So all in all, everything's going well down in Coachella.
Yeah, those jerseys are certainly pretty slick. They always knock them out. We had a preview of the military night jerseys they have coming, and those are absolutely unreal too. Go check those out on their Twitter or their Instagram if you hadn't had the chance. Ryan Winterton, he does look pretty awesome. That breakaway goal that he had really reminded me similar to the McCann goal in that Carolina game, just a big stretch pass to him being wide open and then just walks it in and puts it home. So, I mean, if we're looking for some sort of way to get some new life reinvigorated into the Seattle Kraken, maybe something happens down the line where he slots in for a game and he gets some youth and excitement and someone super hungry in there to try to scoop up a little bit of ice time from someone else.
Yeah, I think it's always good to have a bunch of competition going down in the AHL, because competition, breeds greatness or something. I don't know. I feel like that might be a quote or something. But it's really unfortunate, though, that we can't make the most of our roster space to have these guys come up all the time. We have to be like very careful with the cap space that we have to not bring up people that would have to go on waivers and stuff like that. So that's a little unfortunate, but I do agree that it's going to be nice to see what they're doing. Also, the Veterans Day jerseys are absolutely killer. They're modeled off the old World War II planes with shark mouth, and they completely take the same color scheme. If you haven't seen them, you should look them up. They look really good.
Yeah, and if you're going to be watching the Firebirds this week, you can catch actually 3 games upcoming this week. So instead of the 1 game you had last week, you got 3 games upcoming. First game this week is going to be on Wednesday, October 30th, and they're away to the Barracuda, and then they're going to play a back-to-back on November 1st and 2nd against the Bakersfield Condors. So plenty of AHL hockey to watch this week. So between the Kraken and the Firebirds, you will be you'll have all the time in the world to just sit back and watch tons of hockey.
All right, and with that, we are going to move into our returning segment, the Puget Sound Table. Our weekly roundtable of topics, Kraken adjacent, not just talking about the Kraken, talking about the hockey world at large. Now, we are definitely starting Kraken adjacent with Sound Table topic number 1. As Seattle Kraken legend Vitek Vanacek came down with a case of the Fanatics last week. In a game against the Avalanche on Sunday, the Sharks goaltender entered the game with his jersey misspelled. Instead of being Vanecek, it was spelled Vanacek. And I mean, at this point, honestly, are we surprised that it took this long to have a Fanatics experience happen in the NHL?
Honestly, I was expecting something far this is pretty bad. Like, it's not like we're talking about like a letter being a little bit off or something like that. Like, they spelled his last name wrong. You can Google this man's name and be like, there he is, Kraken legend, Vitek Vanacek. That's how you spell his last name. It's with an E, not an A. But the fact that this is the first one, I'm waiting for the day where someone, one of the Kraken players skates out and the S is going to be like
Horizontal.
with the water. Yeah, horizontal with the water, and you're gonna be like, that's wrong. And they're gonna be like, yeah, just play it off. It's our fancy jersey. So this is strike 1A with Fanatics, but like I feel like there's gonna be plenty more to come.
I honestly I don't really blame Fanatics here. If it was like a quality control thing where the logo's peeling off or the name bar's peeling off, or like we saw Matty Beniers, his practice jersey was ripped right after we went to Fanatics. It was before the season started. Then I would blame Fanatics. But this, in my opinion, is on the equipment staff. There's like, what, 5 or 7 of those guys? And they have all the jerseys. They do the name bars and all of that. And they're the ones that are supposed to be meticulously going through and making sure everything's good. And it's only one player that has their name misspelled. I don't think Fanatics is controlling that. I think that's on the equipment staff, and I think they got absolutely reamed for that, probably.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, how did that happen? That's my big question. Like, how does something like that happen? I was thinking about Maddie's practice jersey though, because I was like, yeah, we've seen some mistakes before. That's definitely, that one's on Fanatics. But yeah, I don't know. How does a name slip through like that where it's completely wrong? That just seems so egregious. I don't get it. I don't know how that even happened, but I actually hope we don't see it again. It's disrespectful to a player too.
Yeah, 100%. I would guess that it was probably like an intern. Like, I used to intern with the Thunderbirds, the local WHL team here, and I used to have to take a blade and cut off the name bars for the equipment manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume they have some 15-year-old kid or something that's helping out. Probably, I don't know. It's just insane though.
I don't know. I can't wait for when we face off against Pittsburgh legend Sidney Crispy, and hope that something like that happens. Sound table topic number 2 this week. The greatest rivalry in the NHL continued this week as Paul Bissonnette and Bowie got into a heated exchange on Twitter. For those who maybe don't know the backstory here, as soon as Bowie was announced, Biz was instantly against him, and their rivalry started. There was a boxing match that broke out at the Winter Classic last year, and Biz dropped the people's elbow on Bowie, and it's just constant barbs back and forth. Biz tweeted, "You're a coward just like your old man, Bowie." And everyone's favorite Seattle troll replied with, "Is yours back with the milk yet?" And memes of like someone call for an ambulance. I'd like to report a murder. After this, Bizinet didn't take too kindly to it, responding with just a long string of expletives, which we won't say because then we got to put the expletive tag on this, and it affects our listenership and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's fair to say that this round, undisputed, like 10-8 in boxing or MMA terms, goes to Bowie.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's classic. It's good old rage bait from Bowie. I mean, he got Biz to sink to a low level, start using expletives. You don't got to do that. So I think Bowie won for sure.
I mean, obviously, we're not only team Bowie, but Bowie always wins. There's no doubt about it. But I don't know. What kind of person gets into such a battle with a mascot? I really I don't understand it, and I don't get why, and it is confusing to me because I don't know.
Well, I
I
mean,
think it's odd.
according to Bowie, Biz might have some daddy issues lurking beneath the surface. So
Well, maybe that's why.
maybe that's why.
I'm always happy when Bowie can come out strong and just score one for us. So that's fine.
Bowie just absolutely murdered Biz, then buried him, dug him back up, revived him, and just buried him again. That's just how he does it. He's trolling him so hard, and this kind of rivalry is going to keep going on and on and on. I think I've mentioned it before. Bowie's going to be like living in his prime. It's going to be like Bowie the 19th because they've gone through like different people that have donned the Bowie costume, and Biz is going to be like an 85-year-old man, and Bowie's going to come out with like the sledgehammer and just like, oh, well, here it comes. And Biz isn't going to be ready or expecting it because he's going to be moving so slow. So it's one of those rivalries you love to love because Bowie is the people's troll.
Hold on,
Don't troll the ultimate troll.
Are you claiming that there is a person inside of Bowie?
I don't know.
Shh, ruin it.
Like, did he eat somebody? Or...
Yeah, he just eats everybody.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's
So
next? Are you going to tell me that Santa Claus isn't real? Anyway, into sound table topic number 3. A pretty significant milestone was accomplished with Sergei Bobrovsky. He became the fastest goaltender in NHL history to reach 400 wins, accomplishing this feat in 707 games. Anyone have a quick take from this? I think that's a pretty cool accomplishment.
Yeah, I think that's cool. I don't have a lot to say about it, but I think that's 400 wins seems like so many, so it's really cool.
Joey Decord's going to do it faster. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, we'll mark it down right now. Yeah, I'm gonna put it over on my wall here to revisit. We'll just total up how many games he's played and where he's at right now. Outside of the NHL, the PWHL last week announced their schedule for the 2024-25 season. They have action kicking off on November 30th when the newly named Toronto Scepters host the Boston Fleet, and then as well the Ottawa Charge visit the Montreal Victoire. I'll save the Americans from having to go with the French name pronunciation. Did we follow the PWHL last year? Were we hooked up into what team are you feeling this year?
I'm just a fan of the league in general, so I was team all teams to be honest. But yeah, we actually did watch quite a bit. There were some watch parties at Rough and Tumble Pub, for example, if you're in the local Seattle area, just to watch and get together. So big fan of the PWHL, and I'm excited to see it grow and become. It's super popular already, so I'm stoked to see it continue to be that and continue to grow.
Minnesota Frost all the way. That's all I'm going to say.
Kind of had to choose out of between Ottawa and Toronto, and well, I cut bait with Toronto a very long time ago, so I went with the Ottawa Charge. So that was a team I was following last year. It's impossible to get tickets. It's impossible to get anything up here merchandise wise. So I'm excited to watch the Charge this year, and I'm excited to see where this season goes. I think it's going to be an exceptional second season in the PWHL.
I'm just going to hold out for the Seattle whatchamacallits eventually down the line and then be all in on that team. No point in getting attached to someone now when you're just going to ditch them down the line. And our final Puget Sound table topic for this week. The Four Nations face-off jerseys have been revealed. So this is replacing the All-Star game this year. Do we have any reactions on the jerseys themselves? How do you feel about this taking the place of All-Star Weekend? How are we feeling?
Oh Canada, oh Canada, oh Canada, oh Canada. Those are the most beautiful, most crisp, luscious maple leaf type jerseys I've ever seen in my entire life. I have to say they're probably the best jersey out of all four. That might be because I'm biased, but it is what it is. I love it. I think the All-Star game has kind of fallen flat over the last couple of years. We need to spruce it up a bit. So, the Four Nations is going to be a great opportunity, kickstart it in a different direction. But I wish it was more than four nations because there's so many talented nations in the NHL. And to limit it to the US, Canada, Sweden, and Finland just kind of seems like it's missing je ne sais quoi.
I'm sorry. Did you say something looked like the Toronto Maple Leafs in a good way?
Have you not looked at these jerseys?
No, I I haven't. I'll check them out.
Yeah.
Way to do your homework, Derek.
But honestly, I only really like the All-Star like skills competition thing. I really like the Kraken showcase that they do. As long as they do that kind of stuff, I'm chilling. I don't really like the All-Star game, so I think this will be an upgrade.
USA, USA, USA. That's all I have to say about the jerseys. But I am actually thrilled to not have the All-Star game because I was getting so bored with it. I don't know if there was, I guess I'm new to watching hockey, so I don't know if there was a time when it was more exciting, but I think the last few years have just been terrible and boring. And, they couldn't even get Oliver Bjorkstrand's name right. And I'm tired of that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping this is a vast revamp and a little bit more exciting for all of us to watch. And I have a little bit higher hopes for that. I think it's kind of exciting to have these four teams play, and I think it's going to be a good time. So I'm looking forward to it. USA.
And that'll do it for the Puget Sound table as we move into our preview of the week ahead. Heather, what is our slate of games looking like for the next week?
Well, the boys are going to be on the road for the next 5 games, and 4 of those come this week. So that kicks off Tuesday when they play the Montreal Canadiens at 4 p.m. That's a 4 p.m. Pacific time game. Then on Halloween night, the team is in Toronto to see the Leafs, and that's another early game at 4 p.m. Pacific. Then Saturday, November 2nd, can't believe we're in November, they'll be visiting the Senators in Ottawa for another game that starts at 4 p.m. Pacific. But they do play a back-to-back because they play on Sunday in Boston. And that is actually when the time changes. So that will be on November 3rd for a 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time start.
Derek, that brings us to the end of our show. You want to close things out for us and let people know what's up?
Sure. Yeah, I'll do it. So
sound so thrilled.
Yeah. So, hey, we're super excited. If you're still listening, thank you so much, by the way. But we are super, super, super duper, duper, duper excited for the new logo and new song that we're putting out. I hope you guys enjoy that. It's awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Make sure to sub to the YouTube live stream on Tuesday with our live commentary and post-game discussion. And please, 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 please drop a follow and a 5-star review on the podcast app of your choice, Spotify, Apple, whatever you use, honestly, iHeartRadio. And that's going to close it out. Everything, all of our handles are B B B B B B D T T T W W W S E A B T W S E A B T W S E A. Go follow at B T W S E A.
All right, and that'll do it, folks. Thank you for sitting through yet another BTW podcast, Beneath the Waves pod with us. My name is Matt. That is Heather. That is Alex. That is Derek. We will be back with you next week.
Release the Kraken, we going beneath the waves, going